What is up, guys? Long time no video. Here's just a simple little video. The Carrier new axial fan. I think some of you might know that I pieced together some parts I scrounged and I have one. So I've been playing around with it. It is a high voltage input, basically an ECM motor. And then it has its own 10-volt power supply built in that it produces. And then you send 2 to 10 volt, basically, speed reference command into it to run the motor. So right now I just have a potentiometer. Your orange out of these motors, just in case that helps anybody, that is 10 volts. White is your common, and gray is your voltage going back in to tell it what speed to run. So remember these little boards I made, voltage doublers? So I took off the relay, which I fried anyway the other day. I fried diodes and everything when I put these bigger capacitors on there, just because this beast, if you turn it up, it really pulls a lot of power. It's like as much power as a 1-ton AC unit does. So almost 10 amps at 120 volts. So anyway, I've hacked this board. I need to make a new one, etch a new one for these big heavy duty capacitors and bigger diodes, but it's working pretty good. If I turn up to full speed, it will, the voltage will sag and it will quit. So, but if anybody remembers my past videos, basically this is a simple voltage doubler. It works as long as it's AC voltage going in and you're step it up to a DC voltage, a rectified voltage. So you wind up getting the same rectified voltage in the end that you would with double the, AC voltage. So this is made for 208 to 230 volts single phase, and I'm sending DC voltage in because I know, as the nature of these motors are, DC motors, they just go through a rectifier in there and it's just charging capacitors. So if you send DC in, you don't even matter what polarity it is, it'll just go through the diodes and the end result's the same. You can charge capacitors in there. So 120 volts rectified makes close to 170. I think this is off, actually. So that was its capacitors that were drained a little bit. So there's 166. 166 on the first capacitor going through half-wave rectification. That's what you get. And then if you go like this. Oop, and I just turned on there because it has a little delay and then it runs. So you can see my secondary voltage is almost 330. If I don't have the fan running, it's about 330. You're always going to get a little bit of sag when you are consuming power, but once I crank it up, it actually sags a lot, and then it will hit a low voltage and cut out. So for your viewing pleasure, we put the old Glory over there, about 8 feet away, just so you can see. Put this amp meter back on here too, and be pulling like a fraction of an amp, 0.6 amps. So my goal with this axial fan is I want to make a nozzle and then insert some mister nozzles for my backyard pergola area, to where put the high pressure misters spraying on everybody. I want to put it on something I can aim it or whatever. So it'll be pretty cool. And I think of these Carrier axial fans as like a single stage jet engine. So I just put one of those little stickers on there on the front of it. And they blow out this way, so I need to make something about 18 inches to come out and then nozzle down to a smaller opening and then shoot the air out. And then I'm going to mount that in the backyard. That's the idea. So I've noticed the sweet spot for what I want. It's probably going to be about 2 amps, maybe 1 to 2 amps. And it's going to move enough air, probably do the misters, and be, not be consuming too much power. About 1.4. And it's moving some air. It will be more concentrated and accelerated with the nozzle. So this is just the fan wide open. So let's get up to about 2 amps. And at 2 amps, I do get a little bit of voltage sag, but it's still well over 300. Probably not heating up the diodes too bad at that point. Those are Amazon diodes. But anyway, it's blowing pretty good. This would be more than enough, and it's already getting on the noisy side. So the goal is to put this probably not under the pergola, but in the backyard, but like kind of away about 10, 15 feet, and just put the nozzles in and shoot in that general area, so it'll kind of have a chance to evaporate, cool, and blow under the pergola area. Just be better effect than just having the misters on that around the perimeter of the pergola. But now let's crank it up, just to crank it up. There is a limit before my little power supply thing wigs out. But I do want to make this run on a 120 volt power out back. There's about 3.7. It's humming along pretty good actually. There's 5 amps. Well, I'm going to switch over to voltage because I know I can get down to about 240 before it really trips. It gets down to like 230 something, 220 before it will stop on low voltage. So we're just going to push it here. There we go. It's probably getting there. She's moving. I mean, it's moving from there, man. Look at everything in here. There's the old still image for the video. Dude, that sucker's hauling ass. And that's not maxed out. I just can't really run it more. And look at the amperage though. It's going to be 8 amps or so. 8.6 amps. Now I'm obviously having to get loud. Talk over it. It's just loud now. So if I turn it up a little more, it's just going to fault. Oh, yep, there it went. Once it gets much under 225, it trips. Now see it. It's going to restart after a few seconds. These do have auto restart. There we go. But I probably don't need it turned up too much to get the effect I need out back. It just needs to move a breeze of air, so something like that. Out in the open, put some distance in the nozzle to concentrate the air. I think she's gonna work. So anyway, well, my phone just stopped recording, said it had full memory, so I just had to delete a bunch of videos and empty the trash. So where was I? But I was just saying the 10 volts is provided by the motor. So if you don't have that, the motor's already bad. If you do have that, then you want to make sure that your control board or whatever you're using, to send the speed command is sending voltage to the gray wire between gray and white. White's always common, and then which is here, and you should have at least 2 volts for it to run. Usually you're probably going to see between like 4 and 8 volts on most setup units, but 2 to 10 is the range. So you can just take a potentiometer, negative, plus 10 volts, and in the middle from the wiper, you can vary the 2 to 10 going into it. And that's all it takes. Pretty simple. Works pretty good. So once people get used to these, they're gonna not hate them because these replace belt drive fans. No belts to adjust, no belts to replace, no belts to break, more efficient, less noisy, and these go up to like 5 to 6 ton units right now. However, in the next year, possibly, you will see up to like 10 tons, maybe even a little larger, having no belt drive. They'll have 2 of these just stacked next to each other. So the only issues with some of these though is just there's not a lot of them stocked up for parts on brakes, but that will change in the near future. So anyway, just charging my capacitors here so I don't get juiced. But that's all about I have for you. I've been recorded some other videos. I just haven't really done anything with it. Sometimes I record some clips here or there, or some stuff, or some VRF stuff, or whatever I'm working on, and just sometimes I don't get around to posting. I do have some stuff. I got to go through it. Some of it's probably pretty funny. So, maybe start posting some videos because I've just been really, really slacking on it. So, I've slowly been working a little more out here in the garage, getting this set up. Remember my CNC? It used to be over there, but when I built this room, it's air conditioned for free off the sun. I kind of put that shelf there, and the reason I put this shelf here is because my computer and stuff, I was able to come USB and run an HDMI out to here, and then I'm actually able to walk out here with my mouse. I got this Bluetooth 10 key that I set up for shortcuts for working my CNC. It's pretty cool. And so I can use the CNC machine right here. It's a little warm out here, but it doesn't seem to freak out. So that's my little setup there. Got a little more shelves I just put up in there, and just in here, just, still the way it was. move some things around a little bit. This was up there. I kind of mounted it down here now. Starting to work a little bit on my ideas for further modifying the Frankenstein AC, because right now I have a mini split I hacked and put a fixed speed, rotary compressor out there, and then I have another fixed speed rotary compressor on my other heat pump thing that heats my water. But the end goal is really to have the water heater and the AC in here both connected to the same compressor, the same unit. So in the summer time, when this is cooling, anytime it's cooling, it's going to primarily put the heat into the water. And then, or when the water heater is going to kick on. And then in the winter, I don't want cool air out here, so I'm just going to have it switch to the outdoor coil that's going to be built into that unit, because I took a taller mini split outdoor unit and split the outside coil into two circuits. One, so the bottom half's a condenser circuit, and the top half's going to be an evaporator. And EEVs, electron expansion valves, running the indoor, running the outdoor. I already have that all kind of mostly set up. I just have to do my other version of my control board and then tie the gas in. But I've been still contemplating in my mind how that's going to work. And so I have all these different conditions I made, because basically I need to divert, like, am I going to cool this room? Because I don't want to overcool it, because this will go as cold as I want it in here. I could actually go with a smaller compressor, since it's not an inverter one, because it will, if I turn it down, it'll freeze me out. I could get it into the 60s in here, but once I get down to like 75, it's actually pretty cool in here, and I think it's plenty dry, and that's why it feels pretty cool. But so I need to make my controller be able to always go. I need to have two inputs, like a 2-stage thermostat. I have the one up there that's hooked up to this with my own 24-volt little controller up there, and then this one, and then basically working together, they will just, my main control needs to decide where to, like, which coil to use for the evaporator, the indoor one or the outdoor one. It also have to have a high limit for when this water gets too hot. I can probably easily heat this water to 150, and there might be in the summer days where if I run this a lot, the cooling, maybe it will get that water to 150. So there just needs to be like a limit in there with me reading the thermistor or whatever, and what it'll do is my controller is just going to have to stop this pump. And because at that point the hot gas is going to go through this water heat exchanger, the heat exchanger to the water first, and then come out and go to the outdoor coil, which runs the fan based on liquid line temp, it will just automatically keep running fine out there. It'll just stop moving the water through and stop overheating the water heater or the storage tank. If you want to be technical, it won't be a water heater, since the heat pump is the heater. These elements are off. Hardly ran. So I might not even use this basic control anymore, which is just turning on that compressor. I might just stick a thermistor in there, and it'll be just my reading. It'll read the temps, water heater sensor, 2 modes, 150 limit, and the 130 approximately set point that it'll normally run. And so it'll just try to heat. Anytime it goes below that differential of that, it'll say run the compressor. And then if it's too cold in here, or it isn't calling, it's just going to use the outdoor evaporator. And then whenever the indoor unit needs cooling, regardless if this is already on or not, my controller needs to switch over to the indoor, turn on that expansion valve, and start turning off the outdoor one. So it's going to have to kind of hand those duties over. So indoor stat, and that's my cooling in here. And less than 150 in the water heater is going to equal, the indoor evap and the water heater pump to both run. Indoor stat, but it's over 150 degrees. Well, that condition, it's going to be the indoor evap and no water pump. But if no indoor stat and it's below 130, for example, it'll actually be less than that with the differential. That's my cutout. But basically, outdoor evap and water. So you could program in these conditions based on just a couple sensors, and I could actually make it work. I'll have to add a little more subroutines just for the way it's going to kind of hand over while it's mid-running. Have to just start. I'll just probably have it switch both expansion valves at the same time, close the one while the other one's opening. And I think that'll actually just work. It's always going to have to just know where the EEVs are, which It's easy to do. Whenever you just reset the power, they close and home themselves. So that's anyway. I don't know if I'm gonna get that done before summer ends. I might though. I might keep working on it. And what gets kind of complicated is when I make these circuit boards. Like this was version 1, and then I actually have another version where I cleaned up. After remapped my outputs and everything, and kind of got it. I made another version, and then that's what's out there in the unit. This one does work. It's just a prototype, but what I might do is like try to make them a little more, I don't know, like simpler to make, because whenever I start making these more complicated ones, I have an issue. I have to start all over. So maybe put the main processor, just a couple buttons on one board, and then just have a little plug that have all the input outputs just kind of like on plugs real close to it, and then I could just use ribbon cables, in the ribbon cables, which is these themselves, I could kind of twist the wires around, in order by the time it meets to the next board, and then now it's an input output interface board or something like that, and just have a couple boards, and it might be easier than trying to like do what I've been doing, but who knows. I mean, this isn't that bad. This actually came out fairly good. No issues with it. It works. So anyway, that's just a little update. This computer's still working good out here that I bought. Yeah. Oh man, I didn't show you guys this. Oh shit, I might as well gotta hook that up now. So I built this like a week ago. This is just I guess just a stepper motor driver board I made, just for testing stepper motors, or maybe if I want to manually open and close one. So I'm probably gonna wind up putting this in a project box with a 12-volt battery or something, lithium ion, and maybe a voltage regulator to step down the 5-volt logic part of it. So it does take 12 volts for this and 5 volts for the logic. But this thing here, this water heater is kicked on. And these suck, by the way. These got this like at Fry's Electronics or something a while back. It was like in the project section, and these don't move very far, and it goes like, it's real touchy. And like it does the full range within like not even half of the movement, and it's stupid. So obviously I could probably get a better one, but it does progressively go faster the way I programmed it. See, there we go. Or I could go really fast. And this is an actual expansion valve I cut open. That's how they look. In the inside, a little needle, put a piece of tape on it just so you can see it spin. That's when it dead ends, when it spins the whole casing. If it was on there, this part would be locked to this, but so I programmed it so if I push this, I could slow it down. So 1, 2, 3, that's 4. Wait. Push it again, change the speed. 1, 2, 3. And it's basically changing the resolution as well. Push it again. 1, 2. It's as fast as it goes, but you could start going really slow where it commits. And then the last speed, that's full throttle there. So you go real slow with it. Like I said, this thing's real touchy. I don't know, it's being so weird. Oh, and I think I have the current setting probably fiddled with when I was messing with this other motor, so that's probably why that one's being a little touchy. But here's another stepper motor. And I probably should put a mark on here so we can see where it's at. Full speed. And you see this motor's smooth. It doesn't do that jumpy shit. But this thing is not smooth. It's touchy. But it is this joystick, not the circuit. What I just do? Oh, is some unplugged? There it goes. Oh, I think I unplugged the power. It's back on full speed now, which is where my processor goes. And you do have some control of the joystick as long as this wasn't moving and touchy. I mean, you can, but it's on full step, which gives you less resolution. And I'm slowly increasing the joystick. But I push in on the button, flash. I didn't put an LCD on this one. I think the next mode. See, it gets slower, and each time it gets slower, you got finer control of the slower speeds. 1, 2 blinks. There's full speed now. So it's probably getting like 8th step, or that might be 16th step. I don't know. Depends. You gotta look on the schematic, but I could slow it way down, and that's where you could get real fine positioning on whatever you hook it up to. Like I said, this joystick sucks because you only move it like half its motion, and it's already at full, like 5 volts or 0 volts, you know, with 2.5 being in the middle. Push the button, one blink. This is the slowest, so that's full throttle. But I can like really, it's moving. You can just hardly see it with your eye. I mean, it's fractions. And what it is, it's, you know, you got your two poles, you know, and depending how it's wound, you get so many degrees, you know, out of the steps. But you could do half step, quarter step, eighth, whatever. And what it does is, like, to half step in between is like, well, full step's like this coil's powered. Now we're gonna power the next magnet, just moves it over to the next magnet, you know, where then you go like power, then I think on full step it still goes power, then it's gonna go power, then it's gonna invert the polarities and move the next 2 steps, and that's how they work. But then when you do like halves, it like adds, like, instead of going this magnet and now this magnet off and now the next one in degrees, right? You go on, both are on, so it clocks in between the 2, and then it turns off this one and it clocks all the way to that magnet, and then it reverses the first one, and it kind of, and that's how it kind of has its polarities, magnetic field going around. And then you put eighth, all this stuff, it's basically winds up having lower, you know, pulses to one winding while it's putting greater to the next one. So you can actually clock in between 2 magnetic fields. You're just increasing one while decreasing the other one, and you could clock. But I mean, in stepper mode, depending on how many multiple times they repeat the same poles, you know, it's just 2 poles really, but they repeat them a lot just to do 1 360, and then you start doing fractional steps. You know, it takes like hundreds of pulses to get this to go 1 rotation. So I'm like, it's putting out a shitload of pulses from my microprocessor still, but it's just that this board, you know, and it has like 3 wires going in for digital levels that tell it from my processor what resolution to go to. So if I change it and go back to the fastest, you know, then it's gonna haul ass. And it does seem to have a little bit of a jump there in the pulses, and you do have some resolution, or not, I mean speed control, even with it on the lowest resolution, which is full stepping. But when you put on fractional ones, I mean, it might take like 30 individual pulses to step through all those increments to move at that same degrees, you know, of rotation. It's pretty cool. 1, 2, 3, 2, and the slow steady blink is this normal state, but whenever I change it, it gives me like a 1 2 3 4, 1 2 3, 1 2 1. So 1's my slowest speed. So if I put my scope on there, you see a whole stream of pulses just steadily feeding this board, because it's taken a bunch of individual steps, commands that is, to move. It's just that each individual little step is going to barely move it. If I can hold this piece of shit joystick toward, I hit the button down. That's a mistake I got. If I accidentally push down when I don't mean it, then it's my mode button. I'm back on slow. Okay. I mean, you could just clock this thing really slow. See, it's moving, you just can't hardly see it. And I can slowly speed it up. And that's as fast as it goes on slow. And then back to full speed. I don't know. I was probably rambling for that video, but anyway, I got to turn the current probably up just a pinch for running the this thing. But the cool thing, if I make a project box and maybe make a couple adapters or whatever, because some of these are not all wired the same. Sometimes a couple of the phases are swapped or whatever. I've noticed between different brands of units, like the Frederick from Carrier, for example. Here's the slowest resolution. But so you don't need to move these things slow. But anyway, I'll be able to like make a little project box where I can maybe move work on a unit, and I'm not sure if the expansion valve is moving or something. I'll be able to just unplug it and plug it into my little thing and rotate it. And if I keep an extra cutaway, I'll probably maybe try to get another one of these. So I have one at home and maybe one always keeping with me in my bag of tricks. And the cool thing is if I have this with me, I can take these things and test them. I can maybe swap the wires around until I get the steps in order or whatever, put on the right pins basically to drive it. And then once I know that it actually is moving, it's not hooked up, but once I know it's moving one of these things, then I know I can then put this coil pack back over on the actual expansion valve or other type of metering device like that, or valve that's stepper motor driven, and I'll be able to drive it with a little handheld battery pack, and I think that'd be kind of cool. So anyway, with that, that's just kind of an update to kind of some stuff I've been tinkering with, but just messing around a little bit by little, still improvising my ways now that I got a little more things at my disposal, like figured out that I can print these schematics out and node them and work on my circuits. Man, that's cool. I used to not do that. I used to just work all like this and just write it, scribble on there, where now I can lay it out on here and lay out my other stuff and kind of just map it out, and then just scribble and redo it and then correct it in the software and then print it out again after it's fixed. It's kind of cool. So anyway, don't forget to like and subscribe and share the videos and do all that stuff. And with that, we'll catch you guys later.